Josh Allen and the Bills, arguably the best team in the AFC, coming to Detroit.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, let's do this. Possible Super Bowl preview coming up on Sunday at 4:25 in Detroit. It's Matt Dery, Locked On Lions, Joe Marino, Locked On Bills for the Thursday crossover, brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Very intriguing matchup, certainly. Bills off a loss, Lions off of a win last week. Joe Marino, you guys have won 7 of 8. Bills playing pretty good football. What's the sense heading to Detroit this weekend?
Well, Matt, if I may, if this truly is a Super Bowl preview, where do we sign for that to come to fruition? I think world needs it, man. The world needs Detroit versus Buffalo in the Super Bowl, knowing that somebody's going to win that football game. And, boy, it'd be tough for whoever doesn't. But, my goodness, the celebration for either side of that equation would be something else. Obviously, you mentioned it, the Bills in the cold open, arguably the best team in the AFC. The Lions are the best team in the NFL, right? I think that's pretty widely accepted. I think even Detroit fans have warmed up to the idea that the Lions are actually really freaking good. I know that's hard to kind of buy into that, but it's been fun to watch, man. And you have 2 good football teams here. And I think that you mentioned the Bills coming off of a loss. That's really interesting. The Bills are not typically losing games in December. They've only lost 2 games since 2020 in December. They both happened in 2021. They haven't really experienced the sting of a late season loss, and I'm not sure that's a bad thing. Obviously, it complicates their pursuit of the number 1 seed in the AFC, but it's nice to learn a lesson potentially when there is tomorrow. Typically, late season losses for the Bills come into the playoffs, and there is no tomorrow. And so, tough loss against the Rams, who I think the Lions are very much a supercharged version of the Rams. And it seems like maybe this is me spinning it positively or finding a silver lining, but maybe the Lions are exactly the type of opponent the Bills need coming out of that game to have a great challenge than against a team that I think, quite frankly, can expose the Bills in a lot of different ways, similarly to the Rams.
That's what I was going to ask you, Joe. Certainly Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua had their way with the Bills defense last week. Rasul Douglas has been banged up. I know there's been some talk about the cornerback spot there and some of the backups not maybe being up to snuff. How do you kind of view the Lions pass game against what's going on in the secondary with the Bills off of a bad performance last week?
I'll say this. Matthew Stafford went off. You know, the Bills pass defense is typically outstanding. It's been really good for a long time under Sean McDermott. And Stafford went off. Lions fans know what that's about. Like, he's a special quarterback, man. Yep. And he dealed. And I think it's an uncharacteristic performance. I mean, 44 points, a block punt return for a touchdown. They go 12 of 15 on possession downs. They throw for 11 first downs. The dude couldn't be stopped that night. And obviously that raises concerns about how it can be replicated by other teams. And, of course, the next team is Detroit. And I am concerned about the passing game because what you have similarly between the Rams and the Lions are 2 play-action heavy offenses. And where I think the Lions are more dangerous to me with their passing game is there's actually a speed element that exists with Jamison Williams. And, of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's got a little bit more juice than Kupp and Nacua, but obviously the same type of route running, body control, ball winner in the air type situation. And so the Bills are going to have their work cut out for them stopping the pass, but it really comes down to, do they have the right ideas to stop the run? Because if the Bills can't stop this Lions run game, I think they're going to run the ball into oblivion against the Bills. And so I think the pass game is interesting in how the Bills will match up there, but they got to have the right answers against the run, or else it's going to be a snatching of the Bills' soul for 60 minutes.
Everybody's talking about Josh Allen for MVP. It's been kind of a Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley discussion lately. How do you view that? And how do you like the matchup of Josh Allen against that Lions defense?
The MVP's Josh Allen. It's not Saquon Barkley. He's a running back. Like, let's be honest. Josh is overdue for the MVP.
Oh, I love it.
He absolutely deserves it this year. Even in that loss, I mean, he was off the charts, man. 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. No quarterback's ever done that in a game. And the week before, he's the only player in NFL history to catch, throw, and run for a touchdown in the game. We all saw the 4th and 2 run against Kansas City the game before. Josh Allen's the NFL MVP this year. So Saquon, you're awesome. You're having a great year with the Eagles, but you're a freaking running back. Josh Allen's a quarterback of a 10-3 football team and a transition year. Everybody said the Bills were done, Matt. They said they were done. They're done all the way to a 10-3. They clinched the division with 5 to go and 3 left to play in the division. Josh Allen's the NFL MVP. The other part of your question was about Josh Allen against this Detroit Lions defense.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of respect for the Lions on defense, man. All the injuries that they've had, I think at one point, 18 players on defense were just like not available through injuries. And I'm impressed with Aaron Glenn and how competitive the unit is. They strain, man. They play hard. They contest every throw. They're physical in coverage. And it's going to be a big challenge for the Bills. Now, what's interesting to me about Detroit, and I can't wait to ask you about this in the next segment, is Detroit lives in base defense, man. They're 10% higher rate of base defense than any other team in the league. They don't get into these sub packages nearly as often as other teams. And the Bills are very, very multiple with their personnel. A lot of different skill sets, and they're going to get Kincaid and Coleman back this week, which is going to be a big deal. They haven't really had a game with, Amari Cooper fully established in the offense, with a healthy Dalton Kincaid, with a healthy Keon Coleman, of course, Khalil Shakir, Dawson Knox, Mac Hollins, Curtis Samuel, the running backs. They're very multiple. They can play guys interchangeable in the slot and at tight end, guys in the backfield and in the slot. And for a Lions defense that lives in base, that's going to present some issues. And so I think the X factor in this game is going to be the Bills and their ability to score, right? And score a lot of points. That's maybe going to get the Lions out of this run-heavy script, because if the Lions are just going to sit there and pound the ball all game long, I think that's going to be a big trouble situation for the Bills. And so they got to score early, they got to score often, and they got to take advantage of their multiplicity on offense with the star quarterback in Josh Allen against the Lions defense. That's good. It's competitive. It's tough. It's shorthanded, and they live in base defense.
Joe Marino, Locked On Bills. Matt Dery, Locked On Lions. Thursday crossover, 425 CBS. Detroit hosting Buffalo. Lions have won 11 in a row. Bills, of course, had their 7-game win streak snapped last weekend. You mentioned Shakir. When you lost Stephon Diggs, when you lost Gabe Davis, who's Josh Allen going to throw to? Boy, that kid has got some wheels, man, right? You consider him your number one? Is it Cooper? Tell me about a little bit more about what Josh Allen's looking at down the field.
Yeah, Khalil Shakir has really emerged, and it happened last year. Over the last 12 games last season, Khalil Shakir had more receiving yards than Stephon Diggs, and this is true, on 60 less targets, okay? This happened last year where Khalil Shakir kind of became the go-to guy out of the slot, and he's really, really dynamic yards after catch player. I think he's most yards after catch per reception in the NFL and most yards after contact per reception in the NFL. He's tough to get down. He pinballs, and then there's this vertical element to his game as well that, you can try to squat and play conservatively and come up and tackle, and he couldn't make you miss, but also, he can get down the field, and they love that slot fade. They love to get him the ball over the middle of the field. So he's become a really important part of this. And then, of course, the trade for Amari Cooper, where the targets seem to continue to go up. He's developing chemistry with Josh Allen. Seemingly every week you see some nice plays down the field that involve him. And, even before they had Cooper, you had Keon Coleman, the Bills' top pick in this draft, really come along as a guy that is a ball winner with size, really good yards after catch, kind of wins on that linear plane to really round this thing out. And then Mac Hollins has been a really nice addition where, not a high volume target, but there's 3-4 plays a game where he's able to win the ball or come up clutch on a scramble drill, high effort player. So those are your receivers to go with. Kincaid, who, everybody talked about Laporta, and of course the amazing rookie season he had last year. Right there was Dalton Kincaid, just a tick below the production, and then a really good trio of backs and James Cook, Ty Johnson, and the rookie Ray Davis. So there's a lot of depth to these weapons, and Josh has quite a bit at his disposal to work with.
We're going to get more in depth on the Lions, get the biggest Lions storylines. We'll flip the script a little bit and have Joe throw some things my way. It is the Thursday crossover, Lions and Bills. We'll talk Detroit next. But first, crossover Thursday, Locked On Lions, Locked On Bills, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. You love that NFC West on a Thursday. It doesn't get any better than the NFC West, right? Well, it does. But if you want to put money down on the game tonight, the FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place that bet on the game all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of tonight's Thursday night game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, so much more on the same page where you place your bets. It's not just NFL, of course. NHL, NBA is all in full swing. College hoops, you can all do that at FanDuel as well. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And how about our friends at Game Time? I've said it on Locked On Lions the last couple of days, taking my son to a little Indiana Notre Dame next Friday night. He's a Hoosier, and got the tickets on Game Time. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to not eat for the next month, but hey, Game Time's got this feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets on the app to see your favorite teams play live even easier. And I used it last week. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the best deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time app is the best. They've got all-in pricing, so you toggle this feature, shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And I love, of course, the view from your seat as well. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create the account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Matt and Joe, whether you Locked On Lions, Locked On Bills, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell our listeners here in Detroit, Joe Marino and the Bills, top show on the network right now. Come on, Joe. I know you don't like talking about yourself, but you're kicking ass, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, shout out Bills Mafia, man. Nothing like them. A wonderful fan base that gives me a lot of support. Very thankful for that. I want to talk about Jared Goff to start this conversation, Matt. I've been a big Jared Goff fan for a while now, and I ranked him pretty high. I do the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast as well as Locked On Bills, and we did our preseason quarterback rankings. I had him pretty high, and I'll tell you what, the Packers fans were real mad that I had him above Jordan Love, but that's looking like a good take right now. This seems like a safe place to spike the ball, if I may.
Oh, they're mad anyway. They're all they cannot take that the Lions are good. They just don't get it.
It's been an absolute journey doing a national show, and like anything that we don't say about the Packers that's like glowing and Matt LaFleur's the greatest coach ever, and it's just crazy interacting with them. But Jared Goff, nonetheless, he's getting better and better in Detroit. I mean, you don't typically see a quarterback age 28, age 29, now in his age 30 season playing the best football of his career. How have you seen him grow, and how have you seen the Detroit Lions build around him to really maximize his game?
I mean, first and foremost, just Ben Johnson and that relationship, and you got to throw Mark Brunell in there, the quarterback's coach. It works. It absolutely works. It helps when you've got David Montgomery pounding the rock. It helps when you bring in Jameer Gibbs on that second series every week, and he busts out a 20, 30, 40-yard run. He's got talent around him. Now, does he have a number one superstar receiver like a Justin Jefferson? No, Amon-Ra St. Brown's pretty darn good. But the O-line's really good, but he's smart. He's playing with that chip on his shoulder. He still remembers what Sean McVay and the Rams kind of discarded him. And it's motivating him to get to that big game and to get to the Super Bowl in February. So, under control. When he's had a bad game or a bad series, threw an interception, of course, the other day against the Packers, bounce right back. And like you mentioned before, the play action game, which you guys saw a lot last week in that game out at SoFi, you're going to see again on Sunday. It works. He holds out the fakes well. He sees the receivers. The vision's there. The arm strength is there. I know they don't throw it deep a lot, although the Jamison Williams factor is there. So the Bills will play some deeper safeties because they know J-Mo can fly, but it all just seems to be working for him. He's just having one of those years, and hopefully it continues Sunday.
I'm really concerned that the Lions are going to run the ball like crazy against the Bills and be very successful doing it. And I watch the Lions a good amount, and it never feels like the run game isn't clicking. As somebody who's watched every snap, what makes this Lions rushing offense so good? I know they have good offensive line. They have good scheme. They have good running backs. But are there any things that you could do to kind of limit it when teams do have some level of success, bottling up the run? What seems to be true?
It's interesting. The one team, this is a good question you asked me. The one team that I can recall just off the top of my head where I'm like, man, the Lions are not running the ball well, was Houston in that first half of that Sunday night game when they brought Jalen Petrie up near the line of scrimmage as a roaming safety. And he just, if Montgomery is going right, he was there. If Gibbs was going left, he was there. It seemed to work to kind of bring a guy like that up. I don't know if that's rap for you guys. I don't know how that would work, but you tell me. But no, it's working because the O-line is really, really good. I mean, you're talking Ragnow in the middle, who I know you love. Penei Sewell arguably is the best player in the game. And I know people are going to go, did Matt Dery just say a right tackle is the best player in football? Yeah, I did. He destroys people, Joe. So it helps. Mm-hmm. It just wears that defense down when Penei Sewell's taking two guys and throwing them into the fifth row. So, I would say Houston was the one game in that first half that you went, wow, Lions aren't running the ball. Otherwise, when they've stuck with it, unlike the Tampa game when they threw too much, when they've stuck with it and pounded the rock, and Montgomery also carries tacklers after first contact as well as any running back in the league. So you think you've got him stuffed for two, all of a sudden it's 2nd and 5, and you go, wait, you got 5 on that play? Yeah. He's been that tough.
Yeah, and the Bills are very reluctant to give heavy boxes against the run. They live in light boxes. They live in nickel. So committing extra is not very characteristic. Although if you do go back to the Thanksgiving game a few years ago, we did see the Bills have some appetite for 3 linebackers. And they probably have their best trio of linebackers available yet under Sean McDermott, with Milano back, Terrell Bernard in the middle, and of Dorian Williams, who's really emerged as a guy that's had a chance to fill in for Matt Milano since he's been injured. But now that he's back, I wonder if they will play 3 linebackers and if they will have an appetite for rolling down a safety. They started to do that in the second half against the Rams, and it came at a cost because then the Rams started being even better with their throws on the field. So it's a pick your poison situation that the Bills are going to have to make some hard choices and figure out where they want to commit and where they feel like they can try to limit without the ideal structure in place.
Well, you bring up a good point. The teams that tried that last year and had the 3 backers got torched by Laporta.
Yeah.
That's not happened this year. Sam Laporta's had a fine year. He's fine. But last year it was, oh my gosh, maybe greatest rookie season of a tight end in the history of the game. The numbers were unbelievable. He's had better games lately. He's had some injuries, but it's not been that breakout, holy hell, 87 is dominant year. Like teams I think are adjusting a little bit. And he and Goff just haven't had the chemistry they had a year ago. Now that all could be thrown out the window this week if you guys do that. And Laporta's beating backers down the field, it could be maybe something the Lions look at.
Yeah, I think there's a similar story with Dalton Kincaid in Buffalo, where it's a really good rookie season, hasn't really built upon that. He's been, he's missed the last few games with a PCL injury, but he'll be back this week, and we'll see what those tight ends can do. I want to ask you one here about the defense. As I kind of talked about in the opening segment, the Lions live in this base defense, even with the injuries to linebackers, man. They're going to play 3 linebackers. 10% higher base defense rate than any other team in the league. The Bills, like I mentioned, are a matchup offense. They have a lot of variety with skill sets. They can give you 11 personnel, and it really wind up being 12, or they can go empty, but there's really 2 backs. There's a lot of different things that they can do. What are your expectations for how Detroit's going to choose to play defensively against the Bills? Is it going to be, this is who we are, let's see what happens, or they're going to get more into some sub packages with their pack 7?
It's just a matter of who's available. Thursday night, you didn't have DJ Reader, Levi Onwuzurike, or Lee McNeil for most of that game because McNeil went out with a head injury. And so you're like, who are these people? I mean, Lion fans, like I said, I was in a suite Thursday night with some of our listeners, and they were like, who just made the tackle? Who is that? I'm like, that's Ezekiel Turner. They don't even know who that is. And this is the best team in football. Yeah. They're bringing a guy up the Arizona practice squad, and he's playing a ton of snaps. You mentioned before, I mentioned this on the Wednesday show, Kelvin Shepard, the linebackers coach, has had 10 different linebackers.
Yeah.
And now throw in Jamal Adams playing some Buda Baker type, kind of sniper stuff with linebacker safety, 11 guys. I mean, you're talking Jack Campbell, Ben Neiman, Zeke Turner, Trevor Nowaski, David Long, Alex Anzalone, Barnes, Rodriguez, Jalen Reeves-Maben, all these names have been out there. Jack Campbell's the one guy that's been there the whole time and stays out there the entire game. He's pretty darn good, and a former first-round pick. But I think what's going to be interesting how they spy on Josh. Anzalone was a guy early in the year that was doing a really good job of running quarterbacks. I was concerned against the Colts that Richardson would light him up. He did for one series, and then they adjusted. But for the most part, as long as Branch and Joseph are out there on that back end, and the three corners are playing well, and Arnold, Carlton Davis, who's been nice lately, and Amik Robertson, then the rest is kind of a hodgepodge, and we'll see where it goes. But again, they are healthier this week on that D line, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. I think for both teams, structurally how they play defense is potentially problematic for the defense against these offenses, and so who adjusts and who can maybe play the game a little bit differently on that side of the football could go a long way in deciding who wins this thing.
Oh, there's no question about it. Let's get into some keys and predictions. We will do that in our final segment here. Lions and Bills Thursday crossover, Matt Dery and Joe Marino. And our program today is sponsored by Built Rewards. If you're a renter, you got to listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Built, B-I-L-T, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable Built points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points for flights, hotel stays, even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Built members. All right. Use them for points and travel. It's that simple. Whether you're on a road trip, flying, driving, it doesn't matter. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's B-I-L-T. Make sure to use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. Joe Marino, Matt Dery, Locked On Bills, Locked On Lions, Thursday crossover. So many good games, Joe, by the way, at 425. Yeah. I'm bummed out. I want to watch Eagles Steelers. That's not happening. I'd love to see Colts and Broncos. That's not happening. The 1 o'clock slate is so bad, Joe. And our game's going to be up against some really good ones on Sunday.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be tuning in for this, right? It's the CBS game of the week. They're bringing the whole crew to Detroit, yes. Right? It'll be a big one. So this is the one you want to watch. It is unfortunate that the 1 o'clock slate's not a little bit more balanced out for us, though.
No doubt about it. All right, how do the Bills win this game? What do you see as some things they need to do?
Yeah, I got 3 things, Matt. Number 1 is being aggressive on offense. We talked about some of the matchup challenges that the Bills can present based on personnel, and obviously the Lions do have a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the football. Still a good unit, still, high performing. They got dudes, man, and they're well coached. Nothing but respect for Detroit and the entire operation. But if there's going to be a path for Buffalo in this game, I think it's going to be aggressive offense that not only maybe takes advantage of some matchups that are in the Bills' favor, but like I said, help your run defense by maybe getting Detroit to not run the ball a million times against you, and the Bills can obviously be had against the ground. So number 2 is they got to have the right plan against the Lions' run game. The Bills don't play base defense at all. They play nickel, and if they play something else, it's dime. 5-6 defensive backs on the field always. So how are you going to deal with this? The Lions will play heavy personnel. They're going to run the ball a ton. They have physical offensive linemen. Your defensive line's not been super stout against the run. It's not like horrible, but it's mediocre, and this is a top-tier rushing offense. And do you need to run blitz? Do you need to roll a safety down into the fit to help yourself? You got to have the right plan. I'm not sitting here telling you what the plan is. That's for Sean McDermott and Bobby Babbage to figure out. But whatever it is, you got to do enough here to limit it and not allow the Detroit Lions to have 300 rushing yards on you. And then number 3 is I have written down is nothing miscellaneous. The Detroit Lions show up every week with trick plays. They show up with stuff on special teams that's unique. They're a team that can score on defense. And this isn't the type of game where you can come into it and afford to have a punt block for a touchdown or give up a big return in special teams, or, you're playing decent defense and then they wake up because they're throwing a hook and ladder, whatever the things the Lions do, man. You got to be ready for all of those possibilities and make sure that this game's decided in normal fashion as opposed to miscellaneous things that extend a drive or give an unexpected touchdown to a team that's really good at home.
No, I think that's those are all great points and all great things to circle. For the Lions, it's pretty simple. First quarter is something that I'm circling, only because last week was so emotional. They played the Thanksgiving Day game at home. Then it's another Thursday game against the Packers. Both division games, Bears and Packers, they wanted those. I'm not saying they're overlooking the Bills. No way.
Yeah.
They know how good Buffalo is. There's nobody more focused than the Lions and Dan Campbell getting everybody ready. But a few days off, a few extra days for this. First quarter, do the Lions come out 100% into this thing? Keep an eye on that. First 5 minutes is going to be key. What if the Bills throw the first punch? Or the Lions going to be ready for it? Watch the open of this game and just see how that goes. I think the Lions have got to come out with the same intensity that they did against Green Bay. And it'll help that the fan base is crazy and the place will be loud. Number 2 is getting pressure. Certainly on I should say, protecting Jared Goff. What I found interesting watching Rams-Bills last week, I don't believe you guys sacked Matthew Stafford at all.
No.
Right? And it's not all sacks. I know you're a pressures guy too, and some pass rush win rate stuff. But for the most part, if they can do what the Rams O-line did with Stafford and keep Russo and some of those other guys off of Jared Goff, I think it'll be a good day for the Lions offense, certainly. And then you mentioned before about trick plays and stuff. I want to keep it simple if I'm the Lions. Like you said, hey, Penei Sewell on a reverse throw in the football. That's fun. Fans loved it. It was an attempt on Thanksgiving Day, but let's maybe keep those in the bag this week and just go with Montgomery and Gibbs and pound the rock and stay with it. Because like you said, Joe, and we've been at this 26 minutes, if the Bills can be run upon a little bit here, the Lions need to take advantage of that. Not have one of those games where Goff's throwing it 40 or 50 times.
Yeah, and a big part of the Rams and I think how they were able to be so successful, literally probably, I mean, it was by EPA, it's a top 10 performance in the NFL in the last 25 years, what the Rams did to the Bills on defense. And I think at the root of that was their ability to be two-dimensional, right? They ran the ball well, they threw the ball well, and that was good complementary offense. And whichever team I think can stay two-dimensional in this game offensively is going to have the best chance to win it. And I mean, you're talking about two good football teams. What's the spread on this thing? 2.5 in favor of Detroit. It's the highest over under of the week, right? In terms of points they're expecting. I think it's at 54.5. It's the only game over 50 this week, and they're at 54.5. Like, this is going to be, or it's expected to be, a high-scoring, tight game. And if you can stay two-dimensional, if you can limit the mistakes, and I think to your point, keep it simple and execute, that's going to go a long way in winning this football game.
So last week was the first week all year I picked against the Lions. I actually took Green Bay. I took some shrapnel from the audience, and Pete loved it. Pete loved it. Our friend in Green Bay. But this week I'll go back to the Lions. You mentioned it before. I mean, both these teams average 30 a game. Why wouldn't it be a 33-30 final? I think the Lions will win a close one. Buffalo's damn good and fresh off a loss, which I don't know. I'm one of those that feels like, a really good team just lost. They're going to want to bounce back. So I'll go Lions by 3 in a high scoring game. How about you?
Yeah, I found myself rooting for the Lions, and I like the Lions, right? I if it's not the Bills this year, please let it be the Lions. I've enjoyed, I'm a team building guy, man. How do you not love what's going on in Detroit? Like, if you just love the NFL and you love football and you love team building, you love what's happening in Detroit. So yeah, I was rooting for them. I normally am, but I was like, I don't want to face this team going off a loss. That was really more so that was the motivation for this one. And obviously that race for the North is pretty tight with Minnesota, right? They only have 2 losses, and that's the finale, right, against Minnesota. So I know Vikings and Eagles fans are big Bills fans this week, but I don't know, man. I don't feel good about the Bills in this one. I think that the Lions present too many problems offensively. And I think that they're better in the margins. I think they're a better team on special teams. And I think that their defense hasn't let their team down like maybe the Bills have at times. So I think there's a lot to buy into with the Bills and coming off of a loss and refocusing and late season sting of a loss. There's a lot of good reasons to buy into Buffalo. But this is a Lions team with a rest advantage at home, the best team in the league that I think challenges the Bills in all the ways that concern you the most.
Joe, great stuff. Always a pleasure talking to you. You do such a great job. And We'll talk some draft, you and I, or maybe we'll just do a Super Bowl crossover.
You know, Matt, I'd like to talk to you for about 2 weeks, end of January and February, and then we can start talking draft in April.
I love it. I love it. There he is, Joe Marino, Locked On Bills. My name is Matt Dery, Locked On Lions. This has been the Thursday crossover brought to you by Prize Picks. We're both back with our Friday shows tomorrow.